Well, good morning and welcome to Tuesdays with Ro. How are you today, Erika?
I'm great. How's it going, Rogelio?
Good. Thank you for joining, and everybody out there, thank you for joining. Today we have Erika Giuggio from Schoolie Mitchell. We talk about saving money. We talk about businesses really thriving and doing the cash flow management and efficiencies. Well, Erika is the expert, so we're with us today. We're going to be talking a little bit about what she does for businesses, how she helps businesses have better efficiency with their cash, how to keep more of what they make. So, Erica, again, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. This is amazing.
So let's get let's get our viewers, get them to know a little bit more about you. Tell us about what you do and how you do it. And well, first, before we get there, tell us about yourself. How did you get started in working for Schoolie or helping businesses?
Okay, so I graduated a little while ago in marketing and I loved it. I loved being able to use psychology to be able to help people buy products and services and, maneuvering that in so many different ways. And when I started working for a company where I was selling social media services, I realized that the same things kept popping up over and over again in my discovery calls. People want to grow, they want to scale, they don't know how to do it. And within their current pipelines and how they run business, there's a lot of different holes in the boat. And at the time, I said to myself, okay, I can help them with marketing. But if you don't fix some of those holes first, everything that we're doing for you, the water's just going to keep coming in. And at the time, I just didn't know how to express that and how to move around it. And I came across actually a franchise consultant. And originally I said, you know what? I just want to get out of marketing entirely. And he said, why don't you look at what else I have? I have 700 franchises. I came across Schoolie Mitchell and they said, hey, listen, this is what we do. We help businesses save on expenses.
Mhm.
And this was like the aha moment. I said, this is what people need because this is what's happening in every single business that I'm talking to in discovery calls. And when I would get to a close, the other thing too is people would say, oh, I don't have enough money. And sometimes it was, yes, I don't have enough money, or they didn't see the value. But then what I said is, you know what? If I can find people money, that means they can either keep that for themselves or they can reinvest it in other areas of their business to really take things up a notch. Or, you know what? Maybe you're really struggling right now and you need that bit of a cash injection. So that's how I got into Schoolie. And I love being able now to work from the bottom up in a sense where you've hit a plateau. How do we move forward? We're going to look at expenses. We're going to cut some down if we can. Most likely we can. And then you get a bit of a cash injection.
Very good. You mentioned the making sure that we can get those holes in the boat covered. That's a good analogy right there. And when a business owner starts their business, they look at what they can sell and what they're going to be doing and how to produce it. But they have to look at what's the cost. What is the cost? And it's not just the cost of producing that item, but there are variable costs, fixed costs, and those are the things that I'm imagining that you can assist a business or with the fixed cost or even the variable cost. I mean, just might be some opportunities there as well. So let's go through that conversation. You mentioned when you have a conversation with a client and you tell them right off the bat, before we increase sales and do more, let's make sure that we have a tight running ship going on. What are the kind of questions that you ask, or what should a business owner be looking for to make sure that they are doing that?
I think the first thing is to understand where the leadership is at within a particular company, or if you're even a solopreneur, what are your goals? Where revenue wise do you want to be? And how are you getting there? So how I use this analogy in my sales calls is it's like going to the gym. If you're 300 pounds and you're like, you know what, I want to get down to 110, why haven't you gotten there? What's stopping you and what are your challenges? And what are you going to do moving forward to be able to achieve that? So those are the big hierarchy questions that I ask. And when I do ask them, it's like a therapy session. Everything comes out. I need funding. I need this. Oh, my sales team is not great. We gotta work on this. We gotta work on that. So I like to look at from the leadership side what's going on, but also from an employee standpoint, if they can join, what was also going on that side too. It takes two to tango.
Oh, very good. That is so true. That understanding the goals that they have and what's stopping them from getting there. Um, how would you address the issues of baby steps or small steps? Because sometimes when they have a big hefty goal, it's harder to start. But as I tell people, the question will always be, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Starting. How do you start? How do you get them to start? What do you think is the starting point that should be right off the bat after you know where you want to be?
After they know where they want to be, like you just said it for yourself. You got to walk before you can run. And I always ask where do you want to start first? So some people say, "Hey, you know what? I want to do sales." Okay, you know what? I have somebody that I work with in sales. Oh, I don't have enough money to do this. Okay, so I said, "Okay, let's look at some funding." Or I'll say, "Okay, you know what? Let's actually look at your expenses. Let's dive into each and every one and let's see what we can do there." I think the best thing that I always do too is just provide a visual instead of saying it and
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Okay, if you're here, these are what's required to scale and grow. Where are you currently at?" And I used to do the same thing for marketing. So, everyone wants conversions, but they don't want to spend the time to do brand awareness
Mm-hmm.
and putting out posts and making connections and building relationships with people. I wish that I could just get married on a first date, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to do that, but it takes time to get there. So I look to see besides the goals, what do they want to achieve, how much money do they have to achieve it, and you got to start from there too. Not every we as business owners and as consultants, we get excited. We were like, yeah, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. But they do have a budget too. So I do like to focus on that. The other thing is, and not a lot of people talk about it, is also the attitude. It's really hard to be in a leadership role. And when someone comes in and tells you what to do, even for myself, sometimes I have to, you know, eat it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's also telling them, hey, like, you know what? Maybe we got to do things a little bit differently when it comes to leadership. Here's why you have high turn. I can help you, but if you're having high turn, that's a big onboarding issue.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta be, and that can be an expensive item if sometimes they don't look at it as an expense, but it is expensive. That learning curve, the training, that's a variable cost. It can go up and down just depending on the retention. And looking at expenses, you mentioned the expenses and how it could be here and in different areas, different holes in the boat, right? The holes could be in the front, it could be or in the middle, in the back, where exactly is the water escaping? What would you say are the biggest, you know, percentage wise areas for what possible savings or biggest areas of expense that should
I
be
would
looked at?
I would say merchant services is big, shipping, fuel, compressed gases, and telecom. Those are the biggest five. And here's why. We all, depending on the type of your business, we need internet. We're on the internet right now to be able to make this
Mm-hmm.
call happen. Merchant services, if you're running a business online, how are you getting credit card transactions? And I think a lot of people think that Stripe is reputable, it's great. And don't get me wrong, I used to use Stripe as well, but they don't see the bigger picture. And there's smaller brands that, even though they might not have the reputation, they're probably even better. And until you start looking at those things, you don't know. And what they don't realize is that all these little companies, they have all these little hidden fees because there's a lot of intermediaries in between. And when we think about these services like telecom, and I'll use telecom as the example, like there's the 5 big ones in the US. There's not just 5. There's many other ones, but we always go to the companies that we see, oh yeah, you know what? I saw Verizon, let's just get Verizon. It's one of those pieces of a business. You got to do it. You got to pay for it. You got to be quiet about it, and you move on. It's not everyone's favorite thing to do, right? It's pretty boring. But that's, though, I would say just from those are just a few examples, but those are some things that often slip. And I'll even use another big example. Like everyone thinks, oh yeah, for a CRM system, you need Salesforce. If you're a small business, just because the name is out there, there's so many other tools.
Exactly. And it's one of the things that I think we as consultants also look at, talking to clients and making sure they understand what their need is, not going just by the brand. As you mentioned, some of those names may be the you mentioned the merchant service, the Stripe might be the inroad to getting set up, but it doesn't mean that they have to stay there. They may outgrow it. They may look at, okay, I'm not using it that often. I don't need a minimum. So yeah, I'll use it. But once you're hitting those sales every month and growing, that might not be the right uh, uh, decision for you, or the right fit for your needs. So you really got to look at it. How often do you think businesses should be looking at their contractual? Because you're talking about contracts that they sign up. How often should they be looking at contractual, and when is the right time to look at contractual type of services?
Typically, people look at it, or the contract is for a year, but I think you should be looking at things quarterly. And that's what we do. We look at things quarterly. So, and one other key piece of information a lot of people don't realize is that if you sign, let's say, your telecom provider, and it says that you have to be with them for 2 years, not everyone's going to sit there and read the terms and conditions, but there's ways around it. So if your telecom company says, oh, we're going to start tagging on this charge, we can go in and say, no, you're not. Why is this charge on here? And then if they don't agree to what you're looking for in terms of your needs, and, and again, like why particular charges are put on, we can move things around. Now, not everyone has the time for that. But I would say you should, every time you're looking at like if people file quarterly for taxes, in my opinion, that's when you should be looking at your expenses as well.
That's good. That's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, so that you're not overburdened looking at everything on a monthly basis. And you mentioned quarterly, but even an additional point there, you could look and say, okay, we're going to look at 4 contracts this quarter and 4 other ones every quarter. Break it up so that you don't think of it's a burden to look at all the contracts, but be able to step ladder the renewals of what's going on and where you can do some savings.
Exactly. Exactly.
What other areas have you noticed with the clients that you've dealt with besides those big 5? What other pain points do you find that businesses have?
Pain points outside the big 5, I would say beyond the contracts. The other thing too is depending on how big the company is, if we can save you, let's say $200,000, and you got to put somebody on the payroll to do this, that's again, like now that's somebody else that you have to put on the payroll. Another big thing is how much time, even if you're a small guy, how much time do you have to negotiate? Do you know how to negotiate? When I see some of the calls that they do at head office,
Hmm.
there's some things that will blow you away that they don't teach you in school. What else could I say is another pain point for a lot of businesses? They just don't know what's out there. Like even when I joined school, before I joined Schoolie, I was like, something like this exists. I wish I knew about this a long time ago. Um, those are what else I would say is a big pain point when it comes to the expense base. What we do is pretty simple. Another area that can also get very complicated, and I do have a partner for this as well, is people will look at their tech stack and think, and I talked a little bit about this earlier about Salesforce. Not everyone is tech savvy. And then you got this software and this software and this and that. And by the time you get your Visa bill, it's like, okay, I have all of this stuff, but I don't know how to put it together. I don't know how to make it work for me.
Hmm.
Now there's all this AI stuff coming out, and oh, this AI tool is supposed to do this, this, and this, but it's not where it's supposed to be. And I think that's also a big pain point that comes up in quite a bit of conversations is I have all these subscriptions. I have no idea what to do with it. I'm tired. I just worked a 12-hour shift and I just want to crack open a beer and watch TV. Or even so let's say you have HubSpot and then you're trying to integrate your whole funnel and Instagram and this and that. It's not everyone's favorite thing to do either, and sometimes you don't have enough time for it. I'd say that's also another big pain point with us.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I can imagine I can see that where you have, you know, one subscription to one internet, or not internet, but a service, Calendly and Zoom and Scheduler. And now a lot of them are adding more products to it, and you may be able to concentrate it, or may be able to just get somebody to help you and put it all in one space and just pay one price, but it'll be a nicer, more concise event. Let's talk about industries that you focus on. You know, some industries may have more savings than others. Who do you think who do you think should be a customer or a business owner that should say to themselves, "Hey, Erica's talking about this. Let's look at it really. What industry should be the top focus?"
So I will say this. We're industry agnostic. We can help many different businesses. If you have any of the 12 categories that we have within your stack of expenses, we can help you. With that being said, what I like to focus on is construction, manufacturing, and healthcare. People in construction, those are the ones that are starting at 4 o'clock in the morning. They're digging holes, they're pouring concrete. When they come home at the end of the day, they don't have time for all this stuff. Some of them, the minute I look at their P&Ls, if I can even get a P&L from them, is like pulling teeth. And like I said, they're tired. And when they come home at the end of the business day is not over for them, but they're over with it.
Hmm.
And that piece is preventing them from helping them grow. And I've noticed quite a bit of areas where we can help there.
Okay.
Manufacturing is also a big piece of that as well. So, fuel, the compressed gases, SaaS, those pieces, we have the room to negotiate some of those elements. Healthcare is also another big one. So, as regular consumers, we don't think about waste, but medical waste, when you have needles and everything else, that's a huge industry. And you can't just dump that outside. That's not gonna end well for the general population.
Hmm.
I would say those are the biggest three, but we've got restaurants. I've got e-commerce stores, again, like depending on what you're doing. I don't want to say I can help everyone, but those are the big three that I like to focus on
Okay.
because those are the ones that need the most help.
Okay, yeah, and I understand. I mean, there's some industries that have quite a bit of expenses, and they're locked in. They have to use them no matter what, but then they overlook that they can probably negotiate their pricing a little better, and they might be too tired to be the ones doing it. So having a champion like yourself working with them, that's always the better thing that for anybody. Now, talk to me about where are you located? Is there any limitations on, that we travel a little bit? So, I'm in between the US and Mexico. So tell me about your location. Tell me about your geographical areas of service. How do we get in touch with you? What should be the way to do stuff?
Sure. So I'm currently working in Toronto, but I can service all of Canada, all of the US. Now, just because a company is located in Mexico, it could be located in Europe, as long as you have an entity within the US or Canada, we're able to help in some sort of capacity. So if you have, let's say, a call, let's say you've got staff in Portland, Maine, for example.
Mhm.
That's where I used to work out in Portland, Maine. As long as you have something out there where where we can work with particular services, we can help you.
Okay, very good. Well, that's always good to know. That way we can make sure that people know out there they can reach out to you. You have your contact information, so we definitely enjoy hearing from you on what you have to say to minimize expenses and really improve the bottom line. You start from the bottom up, but still, it's the bottom line that we got to deal with first. Any other words of wisdom that we should be tuning ourselves to and making sure that we as consultants and customers and chambers of commerce can let our viewers and our I would say our constituents know.
I would say this is general, and this is something that I had to learn the hard way. But once I got over that hump, it made things so much better. People that have expertise in a certain area, even if they're outside your organization, let them do their thing within your business. It'll save you time, it'll save you money, and in the end, they're going to provide a lot more value. And in the beginning, you might feel that it's expensive and you might have to get a loan for something to be able to do X, Y, and Z. But in order for you to grow, that's why you're a business owner, you got to let go. You were not employees anymore. And I'll give you an example. I had to realize a little while ago that just stop cold calling. Have someone else do it. They dial in, they dial out every single time. For every call that we would convert, takes between 40 to 80 hours. So now you have 40 to 80 hours. Look at your opportunity cost to do that.
Mhm.
Now look at the opportunity cost and then look what that does to your outside life. And how does that affect you to go play golf, to spend time with your family, to do certain things, to maybe take Fridays off, whatever the case may be? I would say in essence, let go. You are the leader. Yes, you are in charge, but there's other people that they're better at their craft, and let them do it.
Work-life balance, that's the way to do it. Beautiful. I do have, I just thought about something last question, and this is the steps, right? Giving the steps to our audience. They say, you know what, it's a good idea. I might want to reach out to Ro and Erika and find out how we can save some money, make sure that our bottom line is bigger. What documents should they have readily available to make the conversation a little bit more smoother for them and understandable and can really take a look at?
I think the first thing that, if they can provide it, would be a P&L, or even if it's just a spreadsheet of their debits and credits. This way I can have an understanding of what's coming in and what's going out. And if I can see, okay, we're spending X amount on merchant services, I have a general idea. The other thing too is I would love to see what bills we have and what's coming in. So the other thing I didn't mention either, and I should have mentioned this before, is depending on how far back it goes, if you've been charged certain amounts and those certain charges shouldn't be there, we can go back and backtrack some of those expenses. So your previous bills and your current bills up to about 6 months. And then just on our end, what we'll have document wise is just an LOA and a service agreement just to say, hey, we're gonna find you some better pricing. Do you get the green light? That's it. Super simple stuff. We don't dive into anything else. And if I see certain things, I'll say, hey, you know what? I saw you were spending X amount on digital marketing. You know what? How's that working for you? And sometimes I'll put in some recommendations in there.
Okay, very good. No, it's good to hear that you're able to go back and get refunds for what they overpaid. That's definitely a good idea. And I really appreciate you letting them know what items to look out for. Um, the other thing, I mean, and we'll be talking later on, in the coming weeks, we'll be having other experts and we'll talk about tax credits where there might be research and development credits that are in the US. Uh, I know that there's been employee retention credits and self-employment tax credits. So we'll have some experts on that also can help you with your tax savings, which at the end of the day is improving your bottom line. So again, Erika, I thank you for being with us. I really appreciate your knowledge, and definitely we'll have your contact information. This conversation is being recorded, so it'll be on LinkedIn and our YouTube channel as well. And we'll have Erika's contact information so you can schedule a time to talk with her. Again, thank you very much for being on with Tuesdays with Ro.
Thank you so much, Ro, for having me as well. I appreciate it.
Thank you.